Morning, morning, and welcome back to the Wildlands. Very exciting today. We've got a new series for you.
It's all about our permaculture food forest from day one.
And in today's episode, our friends come round to help us out to destroy last year's garden.
We're calling that one Day Zero, the getting rid of last year's garden.
So enjoy tonight's episode. Back to the food forest. Our first chore was to dig up some of our older plants from the food forest version 1, move them out the way before we put the swales in. There was a lot of measuring to plan out where the swales were going to be before Digger Dave arrived. Help from our friends Mickey, Paul and Dave, helping us clear our first version of our food forest. Let's dig a Dave. So what's very exciting about the new series and tonight's episode is there are many channels showing food forests and fruit forests, but very few, if any, showing the journey from inception. So that's what we're going to take you on, a journey to build our food forest from day zero, which is today.
You can follow along with the journey and watch us as we learn through trial and error how to build it up and get it growing. We've done lots of research, haven't we? We've used YouTube and books and so on, so we have a bit of an idea. And we used year 1 as one of our permaculture principles is about observing the land. And we did that to some extent, but we also spent a lot of time, we tried growing things and then observed how that went. So we now know how the sun moves, where the wind prevails from, what happens during drought, because that's what the main thing we dealt with last year. And then we can put all of that knowledge into practice this year, day 1.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
So things that we did learn, as Missy mentioned, we had a terrible drought. We had nearly 4 months of the year where we had no water in our well. And we thought we'd planned effectively with 10,000 litres in our IBCs, but it was not effectively planned and we ran out of water very quickly and we had to let a lot of our plants die. But the good news is it was a year to find out what worked and what didn't work. So as you will have seen a few months back, Digger Dave came and he put a massive reservoir or pond in, which he's been back in this week as well and reshaped for us. And we've now ordered the liner for it. That's very exciting.
So exciting.
And we've calculated from the measurements how much water we can hold.
It's ridiculous. It's such a huge amount.
It is 97,600 litres of water.
97,000. We only had 10,000 last year in
Yep.
our IBCs, and now we're
Yep.
going to have 97,000 plus the 10,000, plus whatever stays in the well, because last year was the driest winter on record, and this year is one of the wettest, which means that last year there was a lot less water in the ground to start with, less water down by the well, and this year there's more. So hopefully, fingers crossed, with the way that we're planning out the food forest as well, which is all about water retention, hopefully we'll be all right this year.
So what we calculated and assumed was that with the driest winter followed by the hottest summer, both on record, that it was unlikely, although possible, that that would occur again regularly. We're fingers crossed. So we worked out that if that did occur, we need 120,000 litres of water to have maintained the garden as it was last year. But last year we didn't have any swales or berms.
Nope.
And Missy did an experiment, for those of you that are not familiar with what swales are, to show you how swales worked.
So here goes nothing. I hope this works. So this is the rainfall. high on the land. Oh, it's working, look at that. Well, how magic. So that's exactly what we hoped would happen. This is what's happening to our land at the moment. All the water is just pouring off, some soaking in a little bit, but we're losing a lot down the hill. And here, this was obviously the first one to fill up. The other two filled up from some of the runoff from elsewhere, and they're holding the water. Some of the water did escape over here, but you know, when you've got trees planted and bushes and so on, and it's life-size scale and not just teeny tiny, then you don't have this. What you can do is actually create a specific path where you want them to overflow if you get a sudden mad flash flood kind of event. And then it's like a controlled overflow either into another berm or into a drainage ditch. But that's exactly it, that's ideal. Look at that, what magic. So that was our first swale. It's full, it's holding the water and it is slowly soaking in. It'll soak down, but it's also soaking in here to the berm, and the trees and the plants will be happily slurping it up. Second swale and third swale. You can see here the soil of the berm soaking up the water. I would say that was a very successful experiment. It's been about 10 minutes since I poured the water, and I've just come back to get a closer look. And you can see the dry soil versus the wet soil here. It's soaking all in, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And down here in this swale as well, you can see it soaking up. And finally down here, most of the water has gone out of this swale. It didn't fill up as much as the others, but the water has gone into the berm. It's down here in the garden, things are all changed. We've used our whole first year here as a bit of a test. So we got things growing, we were so excited to have vegetables and herbs and all sorts. But everything we knew was just a bit of a gamble, see what happens. We found out where the sun moves, where the shade moves, where in the different soils plants thrive, where they grow, where they fail, where the prevailing winds come through, and what drops out of the sky. So now that we have all that information, we're going to rip everything up and start again. All of these logs that we've left as path markers, they're all coming out. We're going to stack them over up at the top somewhere and let them dry out, turn them into firewood. And then we're going to mark out where we think swales would go. We're going to work out where the contours are, because swales need to be level. And then we're going to dig 1, 2, possibly 3 swales down here. For those of you that don't know, a swale is a shallow trench dug on the land's contour with a berm, which is a hill, made on the downhill side of the trench using the earth that you've dug out of the trench. And then you plant trees and other plants on the top of the berm. Then when water moves down the land, it's captured in the trench and slowly seeps in, some of it in the bottom, but most of it through the lovely loose soil of the berm. And swales are actually best considered as a temporary feature in a landscape, because as the trees that you've planted on the berm grow, their roots go deep. You plant deep-rooted plants such as comfrey and rhubarb and strawberries and so on, and their roots go in, they help hold the soil of the berm together, but they also channel that water down. Now, after however many years, when these trees have got their roots in properly, the swale's job is no longer needed to keep the water in place and to channel it down into the soil. The whole purpose of a swale is not just to have that little bit of water, it's to rehydrate the land, which is why we want to do it. Our soil is very good at holding on to water, so what we want to do is, once we've got our swales dug, we're actually going to use our well water next year to carry on the effect of rainfall. We're going to fill the swales and let that soak in, fill the swales and let that soak in. And then hopefully, over time, what they call a plume develops underneath the ground. You've got your soil here, and the water seeps in and makes a bit of a plume going down the hill. Then the next year it seeps a bit further because there's still some moisture in there. And the next year it seeps a bit further. It takes about 7 years for the maximum sort of plume rehydration to occur. And that then helps you to also create a bit of a microclimate down here.
And in today's video, day 0, after we clear the garden on day 1, we get our swales in. To get our swales flat, we use the LASGOO LG Cross green laser level, which is a very useful tool off-grid, and we'll also be using it in the near future on our cabin build. So we're hoping by combining water storage, rainwater catchment, our 97,600 litres in our reservoir, and
what?
with our swales and berms.
And using no-dig practices as well down there in the garden, which is another good way of keeping water in your soil. Hopefully we'll have just a huge amount of food coming out of our food forest. We've got so many plants, haven't we? All the different plants, the herbs, the trees, the fruit bushes.
And it'll be exciting to follow along to see what happens this summer. Obviously the summer is a little way off yet, but will we have another drought? And if we do the things that we're putting in place now and today get us through the summer?
I look forward to finding out.
So do I. Follow with us on our exciting journey of swales, berms and permaculture.
Hey!
Woohoo! So we'd very much like to thank
Dave,
Paul,
Mickey,
and Ash.
thanks so much for coming and helping us with our garden. Much, much appreciated. And we can't wait to come and help you with all of your projects on your land.
Absolutely, look forward to that. So hopefully we can inspire and influence some of you, be it in Portugal, Spain or England or wherever you might be living, to put swales and berms in to help with the management of your garden. It's not just a benefit in drought countries. Anywhere that has a slight slope. It was originated thousands of years ago, probably in Morocco. It was used by the Egyptians and the Incas, and it's a great way, or not a forgotten method of farming, but certainly it's coming back in big force now, isn't it? A lot of people getting into permaculture and a lot of people putting in swales and berms. What you got there, Missy?
Lots of plants. I got, what have we got? We've got some hardy kiwis, some tayberries, cherry tree, some Egyptian walking onions.
And some of those are gifts from people that have followed us on Buy Me a Coffee, aren't they?
They are, yes, the kiwis and the cherries.
So yeah, the kiwis came from John. Thank you very much, John. And the walking onions are from Gary.
Yep.
He's given us stuff before. Very, very big thanks, Gary, for all the wonderful plants you've given us.
We're in a teeny tiny, I forgot this guy. This is a tree. It's a strawberry tree. A treelet.
So follow on the journey and see how we get on. And as always, thanks very much for watching.
I'll see you again soon. Bye.